Hey y'all, there is a ton of misinformation out there on the internet, in the media, about what it's like to live in Mexico. So today I thought I would answer some of the most frequently asked questions I've seen about living in Mexico, about visiting Mexico. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Adelia Borshade. I help Black women master their money and develop the financial confidence they need to move abroad, travel the world, or do whatever it is they want to do. If that sounds like your kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It might be a good idea to go ahead and turn on notifications so that the next time I upload a video, you'll be the first to know. I'm actually surprised. This is probably one of the most frequently asked questions I see in the various Facebook groups, or, people ask me because I live here in Mexico. They ask, do I need to convert my money? Can I spend dollars in Mexico? Well, if you're going someplace like Cancun or Tulum, technically, you will find people who will take your dollars. Here in Mexico City, nobody's taking your dollars. You need pesos. But I would discourage you, if you are visiting a very touristy place or you're even moving to a very touristy place, I would discourage you from paying in dollars or even discussing prices in dollars, because you are going to be on a losing end of that proposition. You will not get the best exchange rate. You will not get the best price. I would suggest that you convert your money. The easiest way to do that is to visit an ATM in Mexico. Now, if your US bank charges you exchange fees, international fees, you might want to open up a Schwab, a Fidelity, a Capital One, a USAA account so that you can avoid that. But generally speaking, you'll get the best rate at an ATM, and it's just no muss, no fuss. This one takes me by surprise a lot too. Is it safe? Is Mexico safe? Well, first of all, safety is an illusion. Is any place safe? I have lived in Mexico City for almost 2 years, and I have never felt unsafe. I mean, it is a large city with millions of people. There is crime just like there would be in any large city with millions of people. I don't go places I shouldn't go, and I don't do stupid things. I try not to most of the time. So I would say, yes, it is safe. I don't know. I guess the answer to that question might depend on what do you consider to be unsafe. Compare it to the place you currently live. I'm pretty sure you can find a place in Mexico that's got similar crime stats. So I think Mexico is safe enough. Do you need to speak Spanish? It's a good idea to be able to speak Spanish. Is it absolutely necessary? Life will be a lot easier if you do. Again, if you are in an area with lots of tourists, you will find more English speakers. But if you really want a true immersive experience, it helps to learn Spanish. In Mexico City, it is outside of the expat heavy areas like Roma and Condesa and possibly Polanco. I don't typically find a lot of English speakers. If you go to the areas in Centro Historico where there are lots of museums and they get a lot of tourists, I went to a restaurant with someone once and was very shocked that the waiter was talking to me in English because I'm not used to that. So I would say you should learn Spanish. Do you have to? Probably not, but I really think you should, because I think it will improve the quality of your experience. Is Mexico racist? Is Mexico safe for Black people? I'm noticing a theme with all of these questions. They really don't have simple answers. But is Mexico racist? Mexicans will tell you that they're not racist and will readily admit to being classist. I think the disconnect is those of us from the United States have been raised with a very specific form of racism. And racism exactly like that doesn't quite exist here in Mexico. But I can't help but see the connection between classism and racism. I don't know if that's even the right question to ask. Maybe a better question to ask would be, as a Black person, am I going to face, as a Black American, we might want to be really specific there, because I'm not going to lie and tell you that there's no such thing as American privilege, because there is, even for a Black person, once you leave the US, of course. Maybe the better question to ask is, as an American Black person, will I be discriminated against? Will my life be in danger because of that? The answer to that is no. If you look, they recently released census data on the Mexican population, and of the Afro-descendant population in Mexico, nearly a third of it, 27% of it, are Black Americans. Would that many Black Americans be moving here if it was as dangerous for us here as it is in the United States? I think that number speaks for itself. But again, I'm not going to downplay the issue, because Mexico was a colonized country. They were colonized by the Spanish, who, definitely had some issues with race and skin color. I don't feel like I have suffered here being a Black person. However, I'm also a Black American, so I know that colors my experience. Can I drink the water? Maybe. Depends. I'm finding that that's the answer to a lot of these questions. It depends where you are. There are quite a few places in Mexico where the water is not safe to drink. In Mexico City, this is a greatly debated topic. Technically, the water that the city provides is clean when they put it into the system. The problem is the quality of the pipes and the infrastructure and where water is stored may not be. So as a general rule, people don't drink the water here, but it does vary across the country, because there are definitely small cities, small towns where the water is probably not clean even as it enters the system. So no, I don't drink tap water, but I do have a water filter, and it's not anything sophisticated, that filters tap water. I don't buy bottled water. This is a question I've seen popping up quite a bit lately about should I bring my car with me to Mexico? Again, the answer depends. How long are you planning to stay? If it is a short visit, I'm thinking less than a year, it might make sense depending where you are. If you're talking about coming to Mexico City and you are, because here's the thing, in Mexico City, you don't need to own a car. Between the rideshare services, taxis, public transportation, and the fact that a great deal of the city is walkable, you don't technically need to have a car here. But let's say, you want to be able to move freely, and plus parking here in Mexico City, That's a whole nother nightmare. But let's say you want to be able to go visit towns on your own whim. Maybe you've got a large dog that you can't fly with and you're thinking, I want to drive. That might be an option, but something to keep in mind is that if you are coming on a tourist visa, you can bring your car, but remember, every time you leave the country, your car has to leave with you too. So you're coming on a tourist visa, you're here for 6 months, you drive to the Yucatan. Well, when you get ready to leave, you've got to drive the car back out, okay? You can't leave for a week and come back and leave your car here. That's technically illegal. If you are coming as a temporary resident, again, you get a temporary import permit for your car and you have to renew that import. That means you have to drive that import certificate. You have to drive your car back to the border to renew it. That seems like a hassle to me. If you're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to be a permanent resident, no big deal. Yes, big deal, because permanent residents are not allowed to own foreign plated cars. So if you, let's say you start as a temporary resident, you bring in your car with a temporary import permit and you go through the hassle of going back to the border every year because you plan vacations into it and you make it a whole thing. Well, once your 4 years are up and you become a permanent resident, that car has to leave Mexico. You can't nationalize the car while it's here. You can apply for a formal import permit, which to my understanding is not a cheap thing to do. So it just seems like a lot of hassle. So if you are going to be here for any significant stretch of time, it seems to me that it makes more sense just to buy a car while you're here if you figure that you really, really need one. And another question in that same vein, should I ship my belongings to Mexico? How do I ship my belongings to Mexico? If y'all know anything about me, you know I am not on the team that says ship your stuff. However, I know everybody doesn't live out of 3 suitcases the way I do. If you have residency, you get a one-time opportunity to import household items and not have to pay taxes on it. But that is a complicated process that you have to make sure that you do exactly the way they want or you'll get screwed. So to answer that question, I think that, again, the answer depends. I think you have to look at the value of the stuff that you are shipping versus the cost and make a decision for yourself. Does that make sense? For me in my life, it did not make sense. But again, it's just me and the dog. So, This is a question I see in a lot of Mexico, expat groups on Facebook where people want to move to Mexico or people are just considering the idea of moving abroad and they say, well, where should I live in Mexico? Okay, that is almost an impossible question to answer if you ask it that way. Well, where do you want to live? What kind of place do you want to live? The people, I'm not a mind reader. I can't just look at you and say, bam, you need to live in Puerto Vallarta. It don't work like that. So I don't know. If you're going to ask that question of somebody, I think you really should provide them a little insight into your needs and your wants. Somebody like me, living at the beach is not my thing. So when you go into these groups, a lot of people will immediately suggest beach destinations because that's part of the dream. I moved to Mexico and I live on the beach. For me, that would be a nightmare and that would be horrible. Um, so if you're going to ask that question, tell people, do you want city life? Do you want to live on the beach? What kind of weather are you interested in? Going back to the previous question about, is it safe in Mexico? Merida is an incredibly safe city. However, it is hotter than the sun there, which means I will never live there and probably never visit, okay? So that question, where should I live in Mexico? Where should I move in Mexico? On its own, that's not a good question. So if you're asking somebody that, you need to refine it a little bit so that you can get quality answers. My answer to that question is probably always going to be Mexico City, because I think it's the best city in the world. Can I flush toilet paper in Mexico? It depends where you are. In both of the apartments that I have lived in Mexico City, I have flushed toilet paper. I have never been instructed not to. However, I have stayed at Airbnbs that were, let's say, in older buildings, and although I wasn't given any instructions, I kind of took it upon myself to decide, okay, the plumbing in this building is probably not sufficient to handle toilet paper, so I didn't. That was definitely more of an issue when I lived in Honduras and visited other places in Central America. I think it just depends where you are in Mexico. And I think because I've actually seen signage in bathrooms in Mexico where they're discouraging people from throwing it in the trash, and they're saying flush it because it's a biohazard. But I think that's such a long-held tradition that it's a habit that is very, very slowly to break. So that's my answer to that question. Can I open a bank account on a tourist visa? Maybe. It depends. Technically, if you are following the letter of the law, you should not be able to do that. However, sometimes laws in Mexico are more like suggestions. So it is possible, but it's highly dependent on the location you're in, the person you get at the bank. You know, it just depends. But if you are someplace and people are actually following the law as it is written, you need to be at least a temporary resident in order to open a Mexican bank account. This is a question I've seen quite a bit in the last week or so. Can I bring my pet, my cat or my dog, with me to Mexico? Yeah, you can. As some of you know, I've lived in several countries and I take my dog with me. Mexico by far has been the easiest one to visit or to even bring my dog with me. If you're coming from the United States, go to the USDA APHIS site. They kind of give you a list of the requirements. Mexico wants proof of rabies, and they want to know that the animal has been treated for internal and external parasites, or at least for dogs. I assume it's the same for cats. You don't even need a health certificate to come to Mexico. The country of Mexico does not require a health certificate, but your airline might. People with larger animals often will drive into Mexico because it's simpler and probably, I was going to say cheaper, but I don't know, because I think gas is a little expensive here, so I don't know. But yes, the answer to that question is yes, you can bring your pet with you. I have mentioned to y'all before that one of the things that I love about Mexico City is how dog friendly it is. In the video I did for reasons not to choose Mexico City, I also mentioned that because if you're not a dog person, it could be a little much for you. But I am a dog person, so I think it's great. How do I find an apartment? I did a video on how to find an apartment in Mexico City, and in the comments of that video, I'll link it. There is a list of the most popular websites where you can find an apartment. But honestly, I will tell you the best way to find an apartment is to walk the neighborhood you're interested in. I know that's a little different for us, those of us from the US, where we like to be able to look at things online. Those websites like Inmuebles 24, Viva Anuncios, those websites, even Craigslist is in Mexico, are good so you can get an idea of prices, but the best way to find an apartment is to choose a neighborhood that you're interested in and walk around and look for, say, for rent signs in the window. That's how a lot of people find apartments. But like I said, I did a whole video on that. Check it out if that is of interest to you. And the last frequently asked question that I see a lot is Mexico LGBTQ friendly? I think it depends, but Mexico City is, I think, very friendly. Puerto Vallarta is very friendly. I think Playa del Carmen, Tulum. Again, I think maybe if you're in some teeny tiny small town, you might have some issues, but I don't even know that to be true. My experience in Mexico is, for the most part, Mexicans mind their business. They're not worried about what you're doing. One of the reasons I feel like Mexico City and those other cities are very friendly to that population is because one of the things you'll notice when you come to Mexico is public displays of affection are a thing, far more than in the US. And I have seen no difference in reaction when the couple doing PDA is straight, gay, or whatever. Nobody seems to care. So if you're looking for a destination that is going to be, safe for you, I think you definitely should give Mexico a shout. Is there a question that you have that I missed? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And until next time, y'all.